Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Grocery Store Nonsense. This happened a few years back. I worked for a large grocery chain for 12 years. During that time, I worked all holidays, came in early, stayed late, rarely called out sick, and came in on my days off. I was treated like complete crap near the tail end of my time there, when we had gotten a new co-manager at the store. He acted like I wasn't a team player. He stalked my Facebook if I called out sick, trying to catch me in a lie. He was used to me coming in and working when I was sick most of the time, which I know is completely terrible in and of itself. On those rare occasions that I would call out, he tried to require me to have a doctor's note to excuse the one day I would miss. All while this is happening, people would come in late with no call, be no call no shows, and be out sick for weeks, with management knowing full well that these people would be on vacation. All this with zero disciplinary action. The store started cracking down hard on overtime. They were used to me coming in early and staying late to make sure all tasks were completed. There were no complaints from management, since it meant that it freed up other people, themselves included, from having to do the work. My department, which was just me, was constantly praised by corporate as being the best looking and cared for department they have seen in the entire Northwest. I took pride in my job and what I did. But this soon became me working just my scheduled hours. It resulted in incorrect orders, a fall behind in keeping the shelves stocked, and a massive amount of overstock adding up in the backroom. People that were clueless as to what we had in the backroom were tasked with fulfilling my orders and ordering things they thought we needed, but did not. It quickly became a crap show. They started letting me come in whenever I wanted and staying as long as necessary after about a month of falling behind. I was really tired of being treated so poorly for the amount of time and effort I put in to make my department perfect. I applied at a company that my friend had been trying to get me to come to for at least 5 years. Wasn't expecting to get the job, as I had very little experience in that industry, since most of my working career was at a grocery store. But I figured, hey, the worst that would happen is I wouldn't get it and still have a full-time job with my current employer. Well, they absolutely loved me and quickly hired me on full-time. I put in a notice at the store and said that I had accepted a job elsewhere, but was willing to stay there part-time to train whomever they hired to take my spot. 5 months go by and they haven't even posted my position. They did nothing to fill my place. I ended up putting in my 2 weeks notice, as I was so burnt out working 60 plus hours a week with my 2 jobs with no scheduled days off between the 2. I made sure that I was available at the grocery store for a huge holiday, and my last day would be the day after. This lovely co-manager, mentioned earlier, thought he was hurting me by not scheduling me for the last week of my notice, which this holiday fell in. Other management tried to backtrack this move and tried to get me to come in anyway. But alas, the schedule had been posted, and as per union guidelines, they cannot change your schedule once posted without consent from the employee. I shrugged at the co-manager and said, sorry, I wasn't on the schedule, so I made plans with my family since I hadn't had this holiday off for years. The rest of management was furious at this guy for trying to pull this power move, which blew up in his face. I cashed out my banked vacation time before leaving, which only kept out at 3 weeks pay, but still. It was my final FU. I hear from old friends and colleagues that this co-manager was demoted to a clerk in a small department. I work now for a far superior company that values its employees and compensates for hard work. I had taken a huge pay cut when I took on this new position, but within 3 years I was making more than I had been making in 12 years at the grocery store. Biannual bonuses, paid vacation, a massive amount of paid sick and vacation time, and a considerable amount of less stress. The next story is called A Snob Instructor. About a dozen years ago, I was on an outdoor safety training course, canoeing or kayaking or something related. The instructor was being a bit of a tool and going on about buying the best equipment possible, and that money should not be an excuse. Later, he took out his fancy knife and told us about its cost, its features and his favorite parts. He spent ages talking about the way it was forged, the type of metal and how it was honed, blah blah blah. Then he asked everyone to do the same. Awkwardly, everyone complied and talked about their knife. He would then provide feedback to them and told them what was wrong with their knife. Finally, my turn rolled around. I was a broke student and my knife was from the bargain bin, but was carefully chosen for its task, an emergency. I pulled it out and then proceeded to provide great detail about the knife. First, I explained that the front half had a sharp blade that was great for cutting cheese, to spread mayonnaise or butter, or sharpen a stick. The back half was serrated. This was great for cutting overripe tomatoes or rope. The strange hook on the front was great for opening plastic packaging. The blade length was great for cutting open the bread roll in one cut. The toggle was useful for holding sunglasses or providing access in an emergency. The hard plastic handle was heat resistant when I needed to quickly rescue a fallen sausage from the raging fire. Finally stating that the price was great, because if it was ever lost or damaged, I could easily replace it. Everyone laughed, except the instructor. He was enraged, first picking on that I used it day to day. I simply told him I could resharpen it. Then picking on that it may be damaged when I need it for a real emergency, but what is the point of equipment you don't use? This went on for a while. Finally, we arrived at quickly sticking it in the fire to save the fallen sausage. He was worried that I could change the temper and it would break. Finally, this interaction drew to a close. After about 15 years, I still have this knife. The blade is sharp and the handle undamaged. It goes on every one of my adventures. The next story is called No Salt. I run the drive-thru at a fast food king in the southwest, taking orders, making drinks, washing dishes and cooking nuggets, fries, etc. We've noticed a trend in ordering fries, probably inspired by the internet. The trend is a fast food hack, where a person orders their fries no salt, to guarantee the fries have to be made fresh. Because we salt our fries. It's what we do. Sure, there are those that order no salt, because they need no salt, or prefer it, but those are few and far between. Let's just say the only thing liberal about the Valley of the Sun is its application of condiments, and especially salt. We've had so many people ordering no salt that we now have a separate section where we make unsalted fries. We hold our fries for 30 minutes, then toss them either way. If you're on the tail end of that, you still get good fries. Having us make you fresh fries individually backs up our line by 2 minutes minimum. Now everybody ordering no salt fries still gets prepared fries. This is also beneficial for those who generally need no sauce because they don't have to wait now. It is ready. To give a specific example, one of our frequent flyers says, "Yeah, no salt on them fries," after his order. As he gets to the window, he asks, "Those fries are fresh, no salt, right?" "Oh, you wanted them fresh, like a new batch?" "We make them fresh regularly and make no salt too. We'll have to make you a new batch. It will be 4 minutes and you'll have to pour around so we can bring them out to you when they are finished." "Yeah, forget that. Just give me what you got." "You got it." The last story is called Can You Help? So, a few days ago, I and 2 of the people I work with were replacing nozzles and hoses on one of the pivots on the farm we work on. For privacy purposes, we'll call one person Johnny and the other Mike. I'll be Horatio. Anyway, what ended up happening was that Johnny would get up top on the ladder to put the hose in. Mike would hand him the hose and cut the hose when it was ready and drove the 4-wheeler that had all the stuff. I was crimping the hoses and putting the nozzles in. Now, it was a windy day, which meant from time to time I would have to hold the ladder for Johnny just to try and keep it stable. But that meant that the crimping and nozzles weren't being put in. At first, Mike would crimp them, and then I would go through and add the nozzles, and once I caught up, I would start crimping them. But after a while, Mike stopped crimping while I was holding the ladder, so I was starting to fall behind. This went on for most of the pivot, but it reached a point where Johnny took a water break with his dog and asked me to hold the ladder up, as it was windy and we didn't want to put it back up again. So Johnny is taking his deserved break. I'm holding the ladder. And Mike? Well, he was just sitting on the 4-wheeler on his phone. Turns out there were 3 hoses behind us that needed to be crimped and a nozzle added to them. I would do them while I was waiting, but I was holding the ladder. So I asked Mike if he would please at least crimp those while we were waiting. His response? "Sure, but you'll drive the 4-wheeler and do the hose and get it up there." Basically just saying we would switch jobs, which I didn't want to do, so I was just like whatever and went back to holding the ladder. I'm glad I just let it go then. About an hour later, while Mike was getting Johnny some things he needed, one of his boxes on the 4-wheeler fell off and spilled all the little parts everywhere. So Mike starts gathering them up, and I'm watching as I'm holding the ladder. The timing was perfect, because Johnny was ready to move on and start the next one. But Mike was occupied and couldn't drive the 4-wheeler up, so naturally he asked me, "Horatio, would you please drive the 4-wheeler up and start that?" Oh, but I can't, Mike. That's part of your job. Besides, I gotta hold the ladder in this wind, so I'm busy anyway. Mike did seem like the message got through to him. And it did. He seemed to regret asking me, and also regret what he said. I did end up moving the four-wheeler forward, but just because I was ready to get done. I let Mike do the rest though, and went back to crimping and putting the nozzles on. I say the message got through because towards the end of the pivot he did crimp them instead of leaving them for me. It felt so good to throw that back at him, because it's not exactly the first time he's just lazed around like that and left things to others. Hopefully this will help with further situations, but I'm not holding my breath. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.